All right, we create a project here. I'm just going to call it masks and change the duration to 10 seconds right here. So it says 10, and then change the background color to whatever. And we're going to start off by clicking the text tool, and I'm just going to click up here. I'm going to type hello world. And I'm going to deselect the layer, and I'm going to click the layer again, noticing the anchor point is in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. So I'm going to press Control-Alt-Home, and then Control-Home to center the anchor point. And then I'm going to hold Shift and use the up arrow keys a couple times so I can move the text up here. And now what I'm going to do is show you how to animate a couple different types of masks. So firstly, we're going to make sure the layer is selected. I'm going to select the rectangle tool, and I'm going to drag a rectangle that exists around this word, and we're going to animate this mask moving up to down. So first, I want to make sure that I open up the masks. I'm going to set, let's move to 10 frames here. You can zoom in and out on the timeline right here until you can see the individual frames. I usually scan mine so I can see, drag the zoom until I see 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. And I'm going to click mask path right here. I'm going to press U, so I'm only looking at what I want to see, and I'm going to move to the selection tool right here, which is V on the keyboard. And now what I'm going to do is double-click the mask that I've created. I'm going to click in the middle with my mouse button and hold it while holding Shift, and I'm going to drag up. Now I'm going to drag to 20 frames, and I'm going to double-click, I'm going to double-click the edge of this mask. And now when I have the target in the center, I'm going to hold the mouse button down inside of this. Then I'm going to hold Shift. Now I'm going to drag back down to where the word was. I'm going to select the second keyframe and press F9 so it eases into position. Now if I press play, you see that the mask will move down and show the words. So in this case, this is an additive mask, meaning that it will show what is inside of the mask. So if the mask is away from the word is going to appear to be invisible. So now what I'm going to do is close this up. I'm going to duplicate it, press Control D. I'm going to drag this to the bottom here, and I'm going to move it. So I'm going to select both layers and press U so I can open up and see the keyframes that I've added. I'm going to click on this layer here, and I'm going to hold Shift and press the down arrow key so I can move this text layer down here so it's not on top of the other one. Now what I'm going to do is select both of these keyframes and I'm going to delete them. I'm going to drag the scrubber back to 10 frames. And now what I'm going to do is leave this mask in place and I'm going to animate the text moving. So first I'm going to click up here on this layer and I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally do anything to this layer I don't want to. And now I'm going to select this layer here. I'm going to open up position. And I'm going to click position at the same place that the other layer is starting to animate. So I'm going to start this position here. And now I need to mark where the mask is. So I'm going to press Control R. I'm going to bring up the ruler and I'm going to drag down from the ruler at the top a line that exists on the top of this mask. This is going to be a guide so I can move the mask back into position. The bottom of the mask and to the left of the mask so I can line it right back up. First, I'm just going to animate the position of this text layer. So I'm going to start down here. And I'm going to move the text back into position. Okay, in the last example, the first example, I showed that I was moving the mask. In this case, the mask is going to stay put, and the text is what is moving into place. So now I'm going to close up transform. I'm going to open up masks, mask 1, click on mask path, turn the mask path on, Jacob. And now I'm going to double click the mask path, and I'm going to hold Shift and just press the move arrow up until it lines up right where we had it. Okay, now I'm going to take the scrubber and go to the second set of keyframes here, and now I'm going to double click the mask and move it back into place because the mask will move wherever the layer moves. So you just have to take it back to where it was and position it where you want it. So I'm going to select the second keyframe and press F9, and now okay, so I'm going to Control Z that. I guess when you ease in a position on a mask movement, it sort of bounces around. So I'm going to get rid of that and just leave it. So now we have two types of masks. The top one is the mask moving. The second one is the layer moving in the text. All right, now we're going to do that with shapes. So to get rid of this ruler here, we don't really need it right now. It's up Emmett. I'm going to make sure that I have the move tool selected, and I'm just going to click on these arrows, or these lines, these guides, and move them up. Another way to do it is also to press Control apostrophe. Let's see. I'm sorry, Control semicolon. But we're going to use this again, so I need to clear them off and just get rid of them. So what I'm going to do now is select both layers and press U. I'm just going to go over and review a line animation that we were doing earlier. Make sure no layers are selected. I'm going to use the rectangle tool here, turn the stroke off, and I'm just going to drag a line that is about that size. Doesn't matter. It's somewhere in there, in between these two layers. And I'm going to center the anchor point. Control at home, and then I'm going to center the layer, Control home. And then while holding Shift, I'm going to use the up arrow and position it between these two layers here. And I'm going to make sure that I go to the move tool right here, the selection tool. I'm going to select all. I'm going to press U to close everything up. And now what I'm going to do is animate the scale of this bad boy right here. So I'm going to press Control A, press U, and I'm going to go to where this animation on the other layer starts. I'm going to make sure I click on the shape layer here. I'm going to press Enter, name it Line, and I'm going to press S for scale. I'm going to first check this. I'm going to click the animation scale watch, and I'm going to move this keyframe over here to the end, meaning that at 20 frames, this layer scale is going to look just like this. So all I'm going to do now is where I'm at, I'm just going to change the first number to 0 and press Enter. And then over here on this keyframe, I'm going to select it and press F9. So this is kind of a review of what we were doing the other day. And now what I'm going to do before it gets to 100% scale, right around here, is that I'm going to drive it past 100% scale. Right about here, which is 18 frames. I'm just going to drag it a little bit beyond so it's going to snap back. That happens a little slow, so I kind of want to just drag it over here again. All right, and I'm just going to adjust the timing for taste. I'm going to take the 10 frames here and let's say move it to 13. Okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is a mask on a shape. So I'm going to close all these up, and we're working with 10 to 20 frames here. And I'm going to make sure that no layers are selected. I'm going to create an ellipse, holding Shift to make a perfect circle, and then I'm going to press Control Home to center that. And now I'm going to drag the scrubber to 20 frames to see where I have some free space on the screen. And let's Control Home to center it again. And I'm going to turn the stroke up to, let's say, 10. And I'm going to turn the fill off. So I'm going to click on the word fill, and then I'm going to click the line here. And change it to 10. See you, Vu. Now I'm going to change the scale on this layer after I rename it. So I'm going to name it Circle. I'm going to press S to open up scale, and then I'm going to scale it so it's about here. Now I'm going to drag it to the bottom and change its transparency as well. I'm going to change it down to about 40% so it's in the background. Let's say 25%. Okay. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing here that we did with this layer here. So I'm going to animate the mask moving on this layer. So it's just going to go away. So first I want to make sure I have the circle layer selected, and I'm going to use the rectangle tool. And then I want to make sure I drag just outside of the layer, and I want to make sure I turn the fill on, and I turn the stroke off. Oh, whoops, I did that wrong. So what I want to do on this layer is I'm sorry, just Control Z what I did. I kind of messed up. So Control Z and go back until you just have made the change to the opacity on the circle layer before you made the mask on the layer. So to add a mask to this layer, we need to click on this circle layer, right click and go up to mask and choose new mask, okay? And now this new mask is over top of this layer here. And we are going to change it to, or I'm sorry, we're going to change the path. So on this here, we're going to do the old 10 to 20 again. So I'm going to change the size of this a little bit so it shows. Whoa, I did the wrong thing. So opening up the mask path here, I'm going to click on mask path 1. And at 20 frames, this is where I want the path to be. So I'm just going to move this to 20 frames and going back to 10 frames. I am now going to use the selection tool, and I'm going to double click. And I'm going to click inside of it, and then I'm going to hold shift, and I'm just going to drag down. And then I'm going to click on the second keyframe, press F9. So when I drag the scrubber, it does this. Okay, and now we're going to close this up. So that is the mask moving on a shape layer. And now I'm going to deselect everything, and I'm going to create a circle inside here. Whoops. So make sure that you only have these layers here. If you have more, click them and delete them. I'm going to hold shift and create a circle layer in the center. I'm going to hold Control Alt Home, and then I'm going to press Control Home. I'm going to drag this to the bottom. I'm going to press enter on it and call it little circle, and press T for opacity. I'm going to change this to the same opacity as the big circle there at 25%. And then I am going to add a mask to it. So first I'm going to go to the selection tool here, and then I'm going to right click on this layer and go up to mask and choose new mask. And it looks good. See you later, Henry. See you, James. Welcome, everybody. Ian, Carter, Kyle. Welcome, Adam. And now we're going to do the same thing. Using the ruler. If your ruler is gone, press Control R and bring it up. And I'm going to drag to the top of this mask line. From the top and from the left, I'm going to drag right here. And since it's a square, we don't really need to know where the bottom is, but it doesn't hurt, so might as well put it in. All right, so we have that. And now what I'm going to do is press P, and I'm going to animate the position. So we're doing the 10 to 20. So I'm going to start the position at right here. This is where I want this shape to end. So I'm going to drag it to 20 frames where the other layers stop. So this is at 20 frames, this is where the shape layer is going to be. And now I'm going to just drag it up so it's outside of this little section where the mask is going to stay. And I'm going to move this second layer here, the second number, the Y. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. And now I'm going to animate the mask. So I'll close this up, open up masks, open up mask 1, and I'm going to set the mask path here. So first I have to make sure that I have the selection tool selected. I'm going to double click the edge of the line, and I'm going to hold shift and just move with the arrow key down to where I want it to start. And then I'm going to take the 20 keyframes. I'm going to double click the mask path again, the edge of it, and then I'm going to hold shift and drag up to where it was. Then I'm going to click the second keyframe, press F9, add easy ease, press Control A on all layers, press U to see what I've done here, and then I'm going to press Control R to get rid of the ruler. I'm going to press Control semicolon to get rid of those guidelines, and I guess I will drag up here. I will press U again to deselect everything by clicking in an empty space of the layer on the timeline, and then if I press play, here's what it should look like, and if yours looks like this, you'll get full credit. So I'm going to ask you when I grade it to select all these layers and press U, and I'm going to be looking for these keyframes. So the last thing, just to see if you went all the way to the end of the video, is on this first line layer. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to drag this keyframe here, and I'm going to get rid of this second keyframe. So all the keyframes exist from 10 to 20. So if you didn't do this and yours is off, I'm just, when I grade it, going to say go back and watch the end of the video. All right, and that is it.